Hey guys. So Jessica Keenan Smith here with Living Well with Epilepsy, and I just here for today's chat. And I wanted to let you guys know that my guest today is going to be Fran from Seize Your Adventure. And she has come up with, oh, here she is. So hang on just a second. Let me invite her. So Fran's come up with, oh,
Hello.
hey lady, how are you?
I'm not too bad. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm all right.
Good.
Is everybody at your house healthy, happy?
Yes, yeah, we've been kind of self-isolating for 2 weeks, but there was nothing too major. So yeah,
Okay.
hopefully that's us kind of
Okay.
like safe
Same
now.
here. Yeah,
Yeah.
my husband works for Red Cross. My daughter is home. My husband's not dealing with direct patient care,
Mm,
but my sister-in-law is an emergency medicine doc here.
yeah, really.
But
Yeah.
really, really busy. Um, but yeah, everybody's happy, healthy, and ready to get out of the house, but willing to kind of hunker down.
Yeah. Remind
Um,
me whereabouts you are because you're on the East Coast.
I'm on the East Coast, so I'm in the States. I'm just outside of Philadelphia on the
Okay.
Jersey side. So I was joking with somebody just recently on one of these. Um, so I'm in the southern part of New Jersey, so about an
Mm.
hour and a half outside of New York, and I'm like just over the bridge from Philly. And the people on the PA side refer to it as, "Oh, you're on the Jersey side."
Yeah. I feel like New Jersey gets that quite a lot.
We get that, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I grew up in Massachusetts and went to school in New York, and never ever did I think I was going to be living in New Jersey. But
Yeah.
here I am, and I'm pretty happy. So,
Yeah. Good, good.
how about you? Now you're in the UK, but where?
So I'm down London way. I'm technically Greater London, but I'm right on the outskirts near Surrey, so it's very leafy and
Nice.
suburban. So yeah.
It is too. Yeah, I'm used to the city. But after about, gosh, I think it's been 14, 15 years. I guess I'm used to it now.
Yeah. Yeah. Indeed.
So do you, somebody has already asked a question.
Yes. Yeah.
Do you use medical IDs? But if you and I can just try to remember that question, I don't want to
Mm.
forget to talk about your outdoors inside kind of project that you're working on. So
Yes.
do you mind kind of giving people a little bit of background on your site and that new piece that you're working on?
Yeah. So I run a podcast and a website called Seize Your Adventure. That's YOUR. And the idea behind it is that I'm speaking to people with epilepsy who are into the adventure and outdoor community. So we have a lot of climbers, surfers, hikers, that kind of thing. I'm just launching my second season. I just launched the trailer at the end of last week, and a little teaser kind of prologue episode went out yesterday. So if you search for Seize Your Adventure, you get much more of an idea of what I do on that side. But
Yeah.
obviously, it's a slightly odd time to be doing talking about adventures and getting outdoors at the moment. So I have to slightly adapt the way that I'm speaking about it, particularly
Yeah.
because a lot of the interviews happened a couple of months ago. I kind of like pre-did quite a lot of the interviews. So the first
Sure.
part of this season is going to be very much talking about getting outside and talking about just kind of like seizing the moment, seizing your adventure. And obviously we can't do that as much at the moment. So
Yeah.
what I'm hoping is to bring a bit of the outdoors inside. And Seize Your Adventure as a podcast was always a bit like that anyway, because as we know, with epilepsy, with chronic conditions, we can't always get out. We can't always physically do the stuff.
Right.
So being able to have a podcast, being able to talk to other people about it and hear these stories is
Yeah.
a bit of a way to live that lifestyle vicariously.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping with the Seizure Adventure at the moment, through the podcast and through a few blog posts that I'm putting up alongside it on the website, that it will just give people a little bit of a slight crossover between escapism and a little bit of a break from the newsreel at the moment, but
Right.
also because of the context of it, because we're talking about adventure in the context of having epilepsy. There's so much stuff in there in terms of resilience, in terms of adapting to new situations and that kind of thing. So I'm really hoping that, obviously, reaching a lot more of the community with epilepsy to just kind of like connect to a lot of people out there, but that it will at the moment in particular reach a wider range of people that are needing that kind of like that connection that they're used to getting face to face and they're used to getting
Right.
from outdoor communities.
Yeah.
So kind of like bringing that indoors a little bit.
Yeah. So one of the pieces that you put up just recently was about, some books that are out there that that you've been reading. You even did a little, you did a video or a story when you went out on one of your walks and read some Nietzsche, and
Yeah.
I was actually very impressed because I have not read my share of Nietzsche, but
No,
you
I have to say that was all in a book where it just quoted Nietzsche. So I haven't I haven't actually read any of his stuff.
I was like,
throw that out there, but no, I do. I'm very much a split personality. So when I'm not outdoors, I work in a library. So at the moment, in particular, I'm very much falling back on that side of my life and just bring a little bit of that side of things into it. And I could recommend books for days in terms of books that are adventure memoirs and getting outside and that kind of thing. The one that you do, it's on my Instagram one. It's called The Philosophy of Walking. I can't remember the name. It's right by my bed. Friedrich Gross, Friedrich Gross, and that's a really nice one for, as it says, philosophy. It gives you a lot of things to think about, whether you're walking or not, essentially. So that's a nice one that isn't on the list, but on the list specifically tried to focus on ones that are perhaps to do with healing and health issues and mental health issues as well. So one of the ones that I really enjoyed reading, it was called Hidden Nature. And it was very interesting because she was a gardener. The woman who wrote it was, I think it's pronounced Alice Fowler.
okay,
Alice,
I believe it.
Alys. I'm not entirely certain.
Okay.
But she decided to get a pack raft, so kind of like a blow up inflatable raft, and to pack raft around it's the canal network around Birmingham, which is like the Midlands of England.
Yeah.
And the canal network, lots of straight canals from our industrial age and that kind of thing. So you wouldn't think there's much nature around there, but she finds the hidden aspects of nature. She goes in like really close and up finding things that even amongst like bits of rubbish and stuff like that, she'll still find the beauty and the nature in it. But the great thing about that book as well is that she while she's doing all of this, she's using the nature and getting outside, doing this small adventure, because she's going through kind of like a tricky time with her marriage. She's a carer for her husband, and she comes to the realization that actually she's gay, and that's why the marriage is not going as the way that she was expecting it to go, essentially. So it's a really interesting narrative, even though it's a non-fiction book, a memoir style. It's a really really kind of like nice way of
Story with
looking.
story, kind of. Yeah. Neat.
Yeah. So there's a few like that. They're all kind of like of a similar vein. So they're adventures both big and small, and people using that outdoors and using that sport and that kind of thing to help process and kind of like access things that they maybe couldn't do just kind of like being inside.
On their
So
own. Yeah.
yeah.
Neat. Okay. Fantastic. So I know that you have, like you had talked about, you have, interviewed a number of folks that have done some, pretty interesting adventures. You've also hiked the Camino
I
solo,
have. Yes.
which is
Yeah.
pretty neat. I mean, so I don't know if, well, all right, I'm going to back up a little bit because somebody did ask a question about wearing a medical ID.
Medical ID. Yeah. So
That
that's quite
you wear an ID.
that's a interesting one, especially with the Camino, because I now have a medical alert bracelet that I wear. It was actually gifted to me by someone as well, so that was quite nice. And that has my contact details and just the medication that I take, and obviously the fact that I have epilepsy. But when I was walking the Camino, I'm not a massive fan of jewelry or wearing things at all. And I had to have my medical alert stuff in English and Spanish because I was
Right.
walking across Spain. So I had a tag on my bag that was a little bit like Paddington Bear. I don't know if you know the
Yeah.
Paddington film
Yeah.
and stuff. So a little bit like Paddington Bear that was just like
Paddington,
essentially saying, please look
yeah.
after this Fran. Yeah. So it had the English on one side and then it had the Spanish on the other side, just saying, I have epilepsy, this is my medication, this is what to do. So I did have that when I was in Spain. But to be honest with you, the thing that I find best is just to tell people.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of my walk kind of like speaking to new people and telling them about epilepsy. And I think, like I say, I'm not a massive fan of wearing jewellery anyway. So something that is worn specifically to say my condition, it's not doesn't necessarily sit well with me.
Yeah.
But being able to speak to someone and explain to them my type of epilepsy and all of that kind of
Right.
stuff, definitely the way I prefer to do it.
Okay.
But yeah, there tends to always be some kind of alert on my person. So I did a race last year, and as well as wearing my bracelet, you quite often put information on the back of your race bib and that kind
Mm-hmm.
of thing.
Yep.
So yeah, I'd say day to day, I don't wear it, but if I'm going into a different situation, I'll definitely have something around somewhere.
Yeah. So I know my husband worked for REI for a while, and he rode his bike. He did trail riding for a while, a long while,
Mm,
and really liked having the road ID, and ended up getting road IDs for for my daughter and for him, because the two of them would go hiking. And um, I tend to like concrete a little bit more than the
yes.
trail. Um, so he did not end up getting one for me. But as far as medical IDs go, you know, I have always resisted wearing one.
Mm,
Um, and I have never found one that I feel like just isn't a big Paddington Bear kind of tag that I have to have
yeah.
kind of mesh with what I'm wearing, and those
Mm,
tags just don't.
yeah.
So no, I don't wear one. Um, yeah, I haven't found a good solution yet.
Yeah, I think it's really difficult, and I spoke about this with Amanda Plump. She's not on social media, unfortunately, but she was a great person to speak to on the podcast, and she does have a blog. And she was saying that a very similar thing. She doesn't know whether people would think to look for the ID a lot. I think it's something which, if you know that people wear it, if you know someone that wears ID, you might think to look for it. But I I wouldn't have before I knew that people like me
Right.
wear them. So
Yeah.
it's yeah, a bit of a tricky one with wearing the medical alert stuff.
Right.
Definitely.
So the Camino,
Yes.
how was it?
Um, Unbelievable. It's so difficult to describe. It was really what I needed in terms of the route that I took was one called the Norte. So it was actually right in the north of Spain, goes all along the top coast. So not as sunny as you think it might be. It's quite a lot of rain. I was in the mountains quite a lot. I was going between the mountains and the sea. So it was absolutely beautiful in terms of the scenery and the type of landscape I was walking through, and just test my body and being able to kind of like work with my body rather than have it work against me and that kind of thing. That was absolutely amazing. But the great thing with the Camino is that you are constantly meeting new people when you're walking it as well, or you're catching up to the same people, and you get to hear other people's stories, and everyone is walking for amazing reasons. Everyone has a
Yeah.
story on it. You just spend so much of your time just going, oh, why are you walking here? Why are you here?
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. You sound like a great person. And all
Yeah.
of this kind of stuff. So it took me, I was out there for about 6 weeks. I took a couple of like, I call them my proper holidays. My boyfriend came over and my sister came over to kind of like meet me for a couple of days off of the trail. But in total, it took me about a month to walk it. So
Okay.
about a month walking. Yeah, it was
My
incredible.
sister
Oh, I
did it
wish I
a
could
couple.
walk. Yeah, I
My
wish I could
sister,
walk all day every day.
I I know. Yeah, my sister did it a couple of years ago, and it's something that that I'd like to do with my daughter at some point. Um,
Yeah,
we'll see.
yeah. Oh, definitely. And there are so many families doing it as well. It's really nice to kind of like see quite a few dads and sons and mums and daughters and that kind of thing. So yeah, yeah, definitely drag her out there.
I know, I know. So what else? What's coming down the pike? Who are you excited about interviewing? You know, what's on your worry plate as far as, you know, coronavirus?
Mm. So, with the coronavirus, it's a odd one at the moment because I work for a local council. I work for the local library service. So the libraries at the moment are shut because of lockdown, and I'm kind of like essentially getting paid to do not very much because there's not very much we can do.
Mhm.
But because I'm a council worker, they might redeploy into other areas that need help essentially. So at the moment, I'm very much on edge in terms of what that redeployment might look like, but we're waiting to see, and it wouldn't be anything like dangerous. They wouldn't put me in the front line with the nurses and things like
Mhm.
that. But obviously there are a lot of people that are needing support and help
Right.
and that kind of thing. So for me, I'm not necessarily worried that much in terms of the virus itself now. My parents, I was slightly concerned with them because they were quite ill a couple of weeks ago, and we still don't know if it was the virus or whether it was just general illness at this time of year.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit worrying for me, but yeah, it's very much everyone seems to be in a slightly different situation in terms of how it's affecting them and
Mhm.
what they're kind of like having to do with it. But both me and my boyfriend at the moment are in a weird state of limbo with the lockdown where we know
Right.
it's going to get hectic soon. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
yeah,
It's the same
interesting
here.
to see what happens with it.
Um, yeah. Um, so, you know, what I'm finding on these lives is that um, you know, about 20 or 25 after, I start to lose sound. And I have a feeling it's because there's so many people taking advantage of this platform at this time.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
and this is also a really good time slot for, it works for Pacific, East, and for you guys. Um, so I guess, because I will lose you kind of soon, if is there anything else that you want to touch on as far as your blog, things coming up that you want to talk about, your podcast?
Yeah, well, I'm always going to say and push people towards the podcast because, especially with me now, I haven't had a seizure for about 5 years now. So my living with epilepsy looks very different to other people's living with epilepsy. I pretty much have to worry about taking my medication, and that's nearly it a lot of the time now. Whereas with the podcast in particular, I get to speak to people with all different kinds of epilepsy, doing all different kinds of sports. So I was speaking to a lady yesterday. Her name's, you'll find her as Annie Bean on Instagram. Her name's Annie Brooks. And she does triathlons and that kind of thing. And she has quite a lot of complex partial seizures and that kind of thing. So, so it was really interesting speaking to her because her seizures were so different to my seizures
Okay.
that I was just like, okay, well, let's go back to basics here because I have no idea about complex partial, and you just tell me
Yeah.
everything and all of this kind of stuff. So yeah, I would say the podcast, the whole idea behind Seizure Adventure and the podcast was to share as many stories as possible. So
Yeah.
I obviously love this kind of thing where you're getting to
Yeah.
speak face to face, you're getting a real conversation, and the podcast you get to hear people
Yeah.
and like invite them into your life and hear the person behind the diagnosis. So it's really lovely.
That's great. That's great. So before I lose everybody, I would really encourage you to visit Seize Your Adventures. So it's Seize and then YOUR adventure.com. I also have linked through to Fran's pages on Living Well with Epilepsy. I've also linked through to her Instagram on the Living Well with Epilepsy Instagram post. And if you have any questions, you can find Fran at Frantic Walks,
Frantic Tea Walks, yeah,
Walk.
that's it. Frantic Tea Walks.
And I would encourage you to just go and check out the podcast and check out the blog and um, yeah, check out the amazing photos. People are doing just like awesome, awesome outdoor adventure things and sharing them with Fran. So please, please check it out.
Oh yeah, and if anybody wants to kind of like be on the podcast or share any photos or stories, do get in touch. I'm getting a little bit busy in terms of how many people I can interview, but yeah, I'd love to hear your stories. So do kind of say hi. I'm very friendly.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank
Um,
you. It's been
I'm
lovely.
gonna, I'll obviously post this to my story, and then I'm gonna see if I can be technologically savvy enough to record it, and then maybe put it up on my website. We'll see. I've been failing at that a couple of times, so we'll
Yeah,
see how that
lovely.
goes.
And I might try and get the audio as well up and running. So I'll
Okay,
set.
fantastic. And thank you so much for jumping at this. And let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you. Thank you so
Thank
much for doing it. Keep up with the people you're speaking to. All awesome.
thank
So,
you. All right. And let me know if
take,
you need anything.
yeah, take care.
Bye.
Bye.